Tina Miss Abba Austin, music artist, presenter, and creative entrepreneur. Over the years, I have met up with successful Africans in business, fashion, lifestyle, and entertainment in and outside of the continent. I discovered that our success stories are endless. I have decided to unveil them one by one. Join me on Africa on Focus as I talk on how Africans are making Africa the future and why you should be a part. Africa in Focus, sharing the stories of the African successful. Oh, na, 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 na. Mm. Oh, na, 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 na. We ain't even on it. I got many blessings, I can brag on it. I've been through the fire, I can talk on it. And I heard that in the streets that they got love for me. Oh, shell, Baba. No, Baba gotta make me turn my swag on. They badu me anytime when the song on. They see the light be shining when it's wrong on. Now you see, say we there run the city. I don't think that any one of you could step to titty. I just wanna sing the song, break it down, oh yeah, shake it to the gone, oh yeah, chop for me. I don't bear for a long, or I need it's okay. I don't bear for a long, oh yeah, cool mole. I don't bear for a long. If I start to talk, the thing with Papa God, it don't do it no going. My brother, you know going. If I start to count. The blessing Papa God it give me when I'm going. My, my brother, you know going. Ah, ah. Na, 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 na. You want me be on some good I know. Oh no, yeah, me CCTV, baby, and anyone me so. Even if I walk through the valley of death, I know the fear. And every day be Jackado, Jackado. You want me be on some corner, no. Oh no, yeah, me CCTV, baby, and anyone me so. Even if I walk through the valley of death, I know the fear. And every day be Jackado, Jackado. I don't mean a summit, no. I don't mean a demon. I don't mean a demon. And to me, Janet Cheetah. I don't mean a summit, no. I don't be a. And to me, Janet Cheetah. I don't mean a summit, no. I don't mean a demon. I don't mean a demon. And to me, Janet Cheetah. I don't mean a summit, no. I don't be and to me, Janet Cheetah. Oh, yeah, when I be on some corner, no. Wanna hear the CCTV, baby, and anyone is. Even if I walk lay up there, I know the fear. And every day be Jackado, Jackado.
What is it? Isn't it like the most perfect Sunday? Well, here in Amsterdam, the sun is out. Kind of started raining because first time in a while we had just a good tropical weather. And that's basically where we are today. Of course, still on this lockdown moment, coming to you live from the city of Amsterdam, a bit after 8 p.m. High Radio, the voice of the next generation. We have some good announcements because very soon, very soon we are stepping into our newest studio, and we have this new environment. You know, High Radio is doing a bit of a rebrand and everything. So I'm pretty excited on what's to come, and of course I'm more than excited just to still been able to hold this lockdown session with you. For me, the making radio and making sure that I get to engage with you and talk to you and all that doesn't stop. It never stops. It never stops. But anyway, you're listening to High Radio, the voice of the next generation. Here is where we bring the culture of Africa to the rest of the world, provided by young people. Let me just, how has been your week? I would really like to know how your week has been. Of course, on every Sunday, my co-host Donny comes and joins me for a lovely talk about all matters arising in Africa. And with that, I promise to have a special guest every week that I talk to. And, it always relates to topics that are there to inspire us. And I must say, this lockdown session has probably been the most adventurous and has been the most inspiring as I've been connected with people all around the world. And actually, it has opened my mind and my my ability to kind of think more in, okay, the world is small, the world is small, the world is small. There are countless of possibilities with this online thing. I know a lot of people are going crazy on it. People have been burning down 5G network networks and stuff. But for me, it's been very, very enlightening. It's been very positive. I've also had the opportunity to, enter into this world of these countless possibilities. But we'll be talking about that anyway. This is the last episode of this season in September, just a month from now. We'll be coming back with the whole new season. But before we hit it off and we call this a final season, it is really, really really time to be able to talk to our special guest who will be joining us in a bit so that we can go on with the show. Anyway, if you are listening from the Facebook page, welcome. Welcome to High Radio, Africa on Focus. We come to meet you every Sunday. I'm very appreciative of giving, your time of the day to come and talk to me and to be what's it called, engaging with me and all of that. I think it's an opportunity that I really enjoy to come into your homes and then be talking to you about all matters arising. But anyway, if you're listening through Facebook, please reshare it on your wall. Make sure that people see what's going on, see what's happening. Also, feel free to comment. I would really, really like to know where you are listening from. Like, where is it? Where are you? Last time we had somebody listening from New York City, and what was the other one? Was it even Jamaica? I was like, wow, that's amazing. Let me know, where you are listening from, where you're tuning in from, some of the stuff that you would like to hear. Just make sure that you let me know. And if you're also listening to the show through YouTube on our Africa on Focus YouTube channel, don't be afraid to subscribe. Connect with us, follow up with all that we are doing, so that we can keep in touch. This digital age, man, you have to stay connected with people, and that's really what it's about. In a bit, my co-host Donnie, the one and only, will come and join me. He said, he had he was delayed a little bit, but I am excited. I am really sure that he will come and join me in this conversation as we will be welcoming our special guest, um, Palgrave Boakye-Danquah. Again, this is the third time, and actually, yeah, a special guest that we enjoy engaging with and enjoy talking to. I think both for myself and Johnny, we can definitely say that since was it the first interview that we had with him, we were like after it. Donnie came on the show, wearing a blouse. I had spent more time reading books and all of that. You know what I mean? And I'm saying that in a funny way because I always like to bring a funny perspective. But the truth of the matter is that's really the impact that he had on us, and really zooming into that which young people need. And it inspired us too much actually that we can definitely say like, okay, this is somebody that we should definitely have back on the show. and also to enlighten us and give us a sense of what's it called, knowledge, in depth, a view of what it means to be politically involved. I know for a lot of diasporans, it is quite hard, to really understand. For me, I was always thinking, what is it with, our parents that are still involved in Ghana politics while they're not even living there. But this interview, I assure you, a talk with him is going to be one that will give you a very, very good perspective on, what Ghana politics does and how it will influence also for a lot of us entrepreneurs outside of our motherland who would like to return or like to start something. This is really, really, it's essential. I had, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, where I had the opportunity to meet somebody here in the Netherlands, a noted African woman. I call her African, she's Afro Surinamese, noted woman who has been in Dutch politics for years. Actually, a renowned woman. She's a role model to me. And I was actually talking to her, and I was like, politics has never been my area of expertise or any of interest. And she said, well, you know what? Even for business people, to make sure that whatever that you do, even in business, or whatever that you do as an entrepreneur, or aside from just what people would think other than politics, it is very smart to be involved. You know what I mean? Because that's where decisions are made. The decisions influence also how you're going to hire people, how you're going to get along or build partnerships, build collaborations. So she was really giving me an interesting perspective on that. Not to say that this special guest that we have here is a politician. I'm not saying that. But he is one who strongly believes in youth leadership, developing youth in Ghana rightfully, so that, in the future we could celebrate more of our leaders who are positively making an impact in and outside of the continent. That and so much more. I am going to invite him in a few minutes to come in and talk to us about that. But again, I would really love to hear how you're doing. How has your week been? Is the lockdown still relevant to you? Is it still something? I know that for our listeners in U.S., lockdown, dependent on where in the U.S. you are residing, lockdown is still real. I will tell you how it is here in the Netherlands. Well, most of the part, people are working from home pretty much until 1st of September, because September is like the date where another announcement will be made of what type of rules and other than that we should be living with. And I must say that so far, people are just out and about, still in limited numbers, obviously. The supermarket aren't as hygienic and stuff as before. Now, at first, you were obliged to, take on like a roll-on bag, and making sure that that's clean and everything. Everything was like sanitizers and so forth. And now it's pretty much, if you look at the sanitizers and cleaning chemicals, they're just pretty much there in the corner. You can figure it out if you want to use it, but it's not, people are not obliged to, what's it called, do what they should do as before. So people can't wait to go back to normal. I hear people are traveling already, which I personally I'm not doing yet. But hey, to each its own. What else? It's still kind of quiet on the streets. However, we've had such a summer week, a tropical week, that people have been going outside, and I must say that it has been quite violent this last week. Oh my gosh! I think in our capital city here in Amsterdam, shooting took place. The same at the beach side at another city. Listen, I don't know what it is, whether people are tense, whether people are worried, and that's taken over, people's behavior. But I must say that it's 2020 is crazy. It's interesting and crazy at the same time. And at the end, I wish everybody to, be a bit more patient with each other. and to really understand that, hey, people are being let go from their working place, and so much more. It's a crazy world, and with that, we just have to be a bit more patient and really be understanding that people could just pop off anytime. And Yeah, that's really how this week has been. But aside from that, God is good. We're all being safe here, and we're all being what's it called? Making sure that we are loving on each other, and ensuring that our family members and everybody is safe. It's still going on. But as for the rest, it's interesting times, really much. Anyway, you're still listening to High Radio, the voice of the next generation. It is Africa Unfocused, lockdown specials. And lockdown specials because we've taken some time out of the studio and I'm just airing from home. We'll be back at the studio. We have this wonderful announcement. If you have already noticed it, our logo, or we're going through a rebrand, a restyle, and we have this beautiful location in Amsterdam, in this entertainment hub. We'll be streaming live from. I hear there was a sports show coming on. There is what else? Kendi will be back. Gary will be back with Y Zone. We have a few of interesting shows lining up for you. So really looking forward to that. But now again, we are here at Lockdown Special, and I'm going to invite my special guest that I have in the waiting room, really waiting. I'm already flipping papers, so I'm sure he'll be able to tell us a bit about what he is preparing for now. But I tell you that, I promise you that if you listen to any interview that we've had with him, you'll be inspired to just, look into whoever it is that you are, whatever it is that you're doing, and looking for how can I rightfully, improve myself, my thinking, my knowledge. He has that impact on people. And this time around, Donnie and I permission to really kind of find out who is Palgrave, who is the person behind, and so much more. So, but anyway, probably again, I say this again before the rest of the world knows him, and his schedule is too full to be booked. But we're absolutely excited to have him as a reoccurring guest. He's a startup re-engineering policy consultant, researcher, lecturer, and missionary. He has 18 years of work experience that exposed him to more than 78 countries all over the world. And some of the highlights of his work to date is one where he is part of the team that led J Life Africa in Ghana, a non denominational movement to develop leaders across the African continent. He's trained almost 500,000 young people globally. Oosh. He's the immediate past head of programs at the Dankwa Institute and now the founding executive director of Kandifo Institute. And I'm so happy that we have a bit of his time to come and join us. Let me just invite him, Palgrave Boakye-Danquah. Good evening,
Hi,
Palgrave. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, and a very good evening to you, MS.ABA, and to all your viewers around the world.
A good evening. It's a pleasure to have you back on the show. It's always inspiring. I hope you heard me what I just said, that it's always inspiring to be talking to you.
I know. I mean, it's a joy to be back and to see that we are relevant to the global conversations at this stage, and it's our thrust that we continue to remain relevant as the
Yeah.
years unfold.
Yeah, definitely. And I always ask this, when people come on the show. Sunday means so much to a lot of people. How was your Sunday today? Do you care to share
Sunday
some of what you've been doing?
today was very good. You know how we've had ease up of the COVID-19 and the
Yeah,
protocols and lockdown. So churches have opened and it's gone beyond the limited number of 100 now to an unlimited number. So I had an
yeah,
opportunity to be in church this morning just to worship my Lord. And
yeah,
afterwards, I plugged myself into the office, just preparing for this unprecedented critical conversation
right.
that is needed at this very time. And I'm just thankful to you and Don for the continual opportunity that you grant Kandifo Institute and myself to join this global conversation.
Yeah. Again, it's a pleasure to have you here on board. Normally, my Donnie is here, but Donnie had somewhere to go, so he hopes to come and be able to tune in rightfully on time. But he sends his regards. So just to let you know that he was really anticipating and excited to be having you back on this show again today.
Great.
So hopefully we'll be talking to him later on. You also mentioned that they're easing down the lockdown in Ghana. How has life been changing? Like, how is this new normal, as a lot of people call it, been in your experience?
Well, thank you very much. I think that the leadership of the country, His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and his vice, Alhaji Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia, together with all the stakeholders, have done extremely credibly well in ensuring that trust is built in the normal citizenry, and the easing of the protocols has been extremely good and healthy. So it started with the opening up of the economy after the intensive lockdown for 3 weeks. The economy was open for everyone to go back to work. And then it followed up onto the opening of schools for final year students in the university, final year students in the high school, and final year students in the junior high school. The rationale really behind this was to ensure that you don't have a backlog, because once the new academic year begins, then you have a backlog of people that have not completed level 400, a backlog of people that have not completed senior high school 3, and a backlog of people that have not completed junior high school 3. And so this was to ensure that we push up the ladder, where final year students in university can write their exam and subsequently graduate, so that the level 300s will be able to push up, and to enable the senior high school 3 students who are completing to come up onto level 100, and then to allow the JHS 2 students to come up onto JHS 3, and allow the JHS 3 students that have graduated to go onto senior high school 1. And so those were very, very helpful incidents, and I commend the Ministry of Education, the minister in charge, Dr. Matthew Poko Prempe, and his very deputy for the very good work that they have done together with the Ghana Education Service. Then further on came to the easing of religious gathering, and so the churches were allowed to operate in an hour for a minimum number of 100 people, whilst observing the various protocols. And this clearly also gave rise to other churches that really, maybe I shouldn't even call them churches, but other gatherings that does not really represent what we read in the good book, to really make an introspection of themselves, to realize whether they are either churches or just a gathering of people in pursuit of something that we do not have an understanding about. And further on, the last time the president addressed the country, he lifted it up further on to state that churches can have an unlimited number of people beyond 100, and still keep to the one hour steady. Mosques are open to an unlimited number of people, also as well for an hour. And the president is going to be addressing the country this evening in about maybe 2.5 hours. The president is going to address the country, or maybe an hour and a half. Yeah, I think so. No, I think 2.5 hours. He's going to address the country and clearly just let us know what the next steps are like. I'm not sure I want to predict what the president is going to say, even though I may be able to put a few statistics together. But the borders are still closed, which for very good reasons, purely because we want to be able to control the spread of the coronavirus. And the borders are open for people that are citizens of the country on mandatory quarantine at your own cost. So when you come, you quarantine yourself for 14 days. So technically, we would say that borders are open for citizens of the country, either by birth, adoption, or by quickly just acquiring the citizenship. And so these things have been working very well. We have just also finished our voters registration for about 36 days. Ghana had to clean up the voters registration. The Electoral Commission did state that the voters registration was overly bloated, and so it needed a cleanup of that. And so give young people an opportunity who are not either registered before in the previous election because we're not 18, an opportunity to register in this year's election. We recorded close to about 16.9 million people that have registered in the new voters registration, and it's commendable. It's really commendable to commend the Electoral Commission and Commissioner Jane Mens and the rest of the persons that are there, and Dr. Srebo and his colleagues for a very good work done to be able to clean up. So the statistics also says that had they not cleaned up, had the Electoral Commission not cleaned up the voters registration, would have had an overbloated number of close to about 20 million people registering in the voters registration for the 2020 election. Meanwhile, Ghana is a population of 31 million people. So the statistics does not really work out well to have 2/3 of the persons above 18 years old registering. And so the cleanup was really important and really necessary. And I think that the 31 million people of Ghana's population, to have 16.9 of them registering, is a true reflection of our democratic progress. And we commend the Electoral Commission for such a good work.
Right. So let me just just go back. I know we've had you on the show. This is the third time around, but I think that with a lot of our listeners, the impression still is that Kandifo Institute is like a political party or something like that. You know what I mean? But just to emphasize that that's not the case, could you be able to just summarize what Kandifo Institute is really about and why we are having conversations like this?
Thank you very much, MS.ABA, and even to Donnie, who is in absentia, and to the rest of your listeners. So Kandifo Institute basically is a public policy think tank, very conservative, libertarian, and we are involved in a number of advocacies, and we write a number of papers. We have about 10 initiatives underneath our think tank. We have the Leadership Hive, we have the Governance Hive, we have the Economic Hive, we have the Let's Go Lower, we have the Mentoring and Coaching Hub, we have the Letter Lead, we have the Abato Asomdue, we have the Democratic Election Think Tank Center, we have a Mentoring and Coaching Hub, we have just launched our GhanaElectionWatch.com. We have an institute that is focused on training young people to be next generational leaders, called Yendachin. Yendachin is a local word, Cree word, which means future. I'm not Pan-Africanist, but I believe in the originality of the African history and heritage. And so I always would like to go back to our local dialect. So Kandifo is a Cree word which means leader, Obiodikai, which means leader. And we can write it in Cree. The right spelling for Kandifo is O, and there's no O alphabet in the English rendition. So that's what Kandifo Institute stands on. To think that Kandifo Institute is a politically oriented think tank is to see that we are doing our work extremely well, which means that we are in the public space of engaging all political parties. And rightly so, civil society organizations are supposed to be one of the arms of government that keeps the government accountable, that bridges the space between the government and the citizenry. And so if you hear that Kandifo Institute is involved in political conversations, it's rightly so, because it's part of its mandate to be a think tank that is involved in public advocacy, that is conservative, that is limited, that thinks about limited government, that is libertarian in nature. And so all of these acts of conversations are extremely important for our political discourse and our democracy.
Yeah, I love that. So just to emphasize, because we have a shout out to Richie AT, who was one of our devoted listener, most outspoken, who probably gets the impression that, this is politically affiliated in that sense that we're avoiding in our talks now. But just to point out, it's not that. It's a think tank, and it has several. Last time you pointed them all out one by one, several initiatives to ensure that young people go ahead in its rightful way. That's urban language, the urban summary. Let me just put it
Right,
like that.
Right.
One of the question, and this is a funny, an interesting question that Johnny chipped in, because one, coming from our last interview, talking to you, talking a bit about the discipline that young people should look for to have and things like that. It drove us into the right direction. Donnie came up the next show wearing a blouse, wearing all looking all chic, you know, and we had both even done more research and more reading. Several books like the influence of the West on Africa, how to be better communicators, and so forth. There were a list of things that we improved in our life, and we were just wondering this type of impact that you seem to have on people. Is this normal? How is your reception from young people in general?
Well, I think that generally, if you have built yourself quite well over a period of time, if you have taken what you do very seriously, if you have not stopped doing the very basic things that brought you to limelight and brought you to the summit of the mountain, and you continue to do that, you clearly would see that impact is made. And impact is really, for me, described like a vehicle colliding into another vehicle and seeing that there is havoc that has been caused. And so it's really just for me very welcoming when I get to hear that either young people or even elderly people make reference of the fact that one or two of my conversations on my lifestyle has been a challenge. And it really doesn't get much into my head because we are very focused on where we are going to. We are very focused on what we want to do. And we just keep saying that it's good that this has made an impact upon your life. Just pass it on to another person. Really doesn't make much meaning if you just say that it's made an impact and you don't leave it out. I think that everybody who knows me sees that I really like to leave things out. Things must be lived out. If things are not lived out, that is of no relevance. And I mean, I have been particularly very excited about this evening's conversation because yourself and Donnie, and I'm sure the rest of the production team have chosen a very important topic, and I'm sure you're going to welcome that conversation. But I just really want to throw light into it because you have chosen a topic that looks into building a system that we can trust and understanding the role, the true role of leadership. And it's really, really important that if we want to build a system that we can trust, then we need to be doers of what we say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely agree. Well, just to go back into, just like you mentioned, the main topic of this conversation, it was listed out like that to really be able to engage with our audience so that people could raise questions and be able to ask, what system are we talking about? Let me just explain it to our listeners where this particular topic came from. And one of the first things is this period that we are in. 2020 came quite surprising for many. Us having to deal with COVID-19. And all around the world, it put our systems as we know it, whether that be here in Europe or whether that be in the States or whether that be in Ghana, it put it quite under the loop, as to, okay, the system that we have thus far, is it really reliable? And is it really there to help us once a pandemic such as COVID-19 comes and kick in? So it has really raised for a lot of young people, like myself, among my age group, among the conversation that I have with fellow, whether that be fellow entrepreneurs, fellow professionals, or fellow students, as to can our systems as we know it really handle these events that we have gone through in 2020. And then also that we have the part of, us being Ghanaians and the part of politics coming across, and so forth. So these are one of the examples that come along that have people to raise questions like, what is the system that we are living in? How can we build a system that we can finally trust? Why is it that, for instance, in Ghana, there is a difference with the way we do things in the Netherlands and so forth? So all of these questions arise both online and both on in-personal conversations. So that is number one, where the topic of systems, or that bit of system, really came from. The other part is obviously the leadership bit, where we have been focusing on in our last two interviews, where we've had the opportunity to engage with you, Palgrave, on what leadership really means. Is a leadership something that you are born with? How do young people take on a leadership role and become effective in their roles and so forth. So many things that we've discussed. So now we're actually coming back to that conversation to be able to connect the two and also find means and ways to identify opportunities that we can take as, I would say, global Africans, but both Ghanaians living in Ghana itself, to really look forward towards building a system that we've often complained about, and actually building the system that we really want to see. So that is just to explain it to our audience what has led this particular topic to come to this point. But let's talk about your platform, because I've seen a lot of announcements concerning Kandifo Institute. Your platform, was it the platform? The name itself says it on its own. Could you share with us what this platform is about? What does it do? When someone comes on the platform, do you want to be able to be a part? What do you take part in? Could you give us an idea of that?
Okay, thank you very much, MS.ABA. I'm sure you're talking about the new platform that we launched. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so we just launched our fourth initiative, which is called the GhanaElectionWatch.com. Basically, as a non-partisan think tank, we are very much interested in data, and we know that the adverse of 2020 to 2030 and the beginning of this whole new decade is a data-driven generation and a data-driven century. And we have realized that there is not a one-stop online platform that give you a bit of a data on what electioneering processes has been. We know that every single country, for them to be able to make a decision on who will lead their country, either as president or represent them at the Chamber of Parliament or the House of Commons or the House of Lords or at the Senate, they need to vote. And so electioneering spans right from the 17th century right up until now. So it clearly tells you that for over the past 300 years, all around the world, people have been voting. And this year, 2020, you have close to about 131 countries around the world that are going to exercise their democratic rights from about 5 continents. Africa has about 35 countries that are going to vote, including Ghana. Europe has over 15 countries that are going to vote, North America, South America, Middle East, and Oceania. So all these countries put together all these continents put together close to about 131 countries are going to vote. Our online platform is an online platform, GhanaElectionWatch.com, that is a database of electioneering results and analysis that spans from 1951 right up to 2020. And so 1951, you would realize that there were electoral colleges that had to exercise their democratic rights. And then there were just a few other people that had to vote. And all of these were on the population statistics and the population dimension. Right up from 1951 up until 2016, we realized that the voting pattern has changed. Many years ago, we used to have different days where you vote for your parliamentary candidate and different days where you vote for your president. And over the years, we've realized that there's been a good streamline where you are able to vote for your parliamentary candidate on the same day that you vote for your presidential candidate as well. And we have analyzed this data that gives the patterns within which the voting data has taken over the past years that Ghana started voting, but primarily because from 1992 right up until 2000, we have experienced stable democracy. So that's like 28 years of stable democracy, which political elites and academics and think tanks like us and researchers will call the Fourth Republic. And so we have brought these data out for young people and even the elderly to be able to analyze and assess the voting pattern, and also to help the various political parties identify which areas that they must focus on. It's rightful for us to be able to also state very clearly that Ghana is a politically awake country, where it goes without mentioning that we have 2 major political parties, one to the right and one to the left. And there are others that are fighting at the bottom of that. And the country is clearly divided along these 2 political parties. And If you take a data of about 100% of the country's population in terms of the 16.9 million people that are registered to vote in the 2020 general election, you would have close to about 40% go to the right and 40% go to the left. 20% of those would just fight between where they would want to be. And this online platform, we have manifestos that people can reference to be able to make decisions on which political party that they need to vote for. It is also important that in this country, people vote for political parties without looking at the leader. And I'm very sure that along these conversations, we are going to start having conversations around the fact that should we vote for a political party or should we look at the leader in that particular political party and make the decision on who to vote for. So our online platform is open for the entire country. We have asked all the relevant media houses to make reference to our online platform for accurate analysis and predictions towards the 2020 general elections in terms of our analysis that we have done, in terms of policy dimensions that we have brought to bear. And for those of you that are in the diaspora as well around the world, we tell you that if you want a one-stop online platform for the 2020 general election, if you are concerned about the development of Ghana, if you hail from Ghana or married from Ghana or have a family in Ghana or you have an investment in Ghana, the only website you want to be visiting during this general election is the GhanaElectionWatch.com website. And when you go there, you will find data from 1992 parliamentary, presidential, or political parties. You will find data from 1996 parliamentary and presidential, right up onto the 2020 general election, where we have 3 candidates that, or even 4 candidates that have declared their intention to stand. The New Patriotic Party has declared His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as the presidential candidate for the New Patriotic Party, with his able running mate, Vice President of the Republic, Alhaji Dr. Muhammadu Bawumia. The NDC has chosen former President John Dramani Mahama, and the running mate, all of you are aware, Professor Nana Jane. And we have 2 independent candidates. Marek is standing as an independent candidate whose manifesto is ready, which is commendable. And we have one Akalu as well who is interested. And I think that the coalition of independent aspirants are coming together to hold a debate to be able to decide who will lead the independent front. And this online platform is extremely non-partisan. By its name is GhanaElectionWatch.com. One of the good things that we have about this online platform is that beyond the election, all other media houses are going to close down their election centers and focus on other things. One of the things that this will do is that we are going to be watching. The reason why it is called Ghana Election Watch is that right up that once we are done with Monday, 7th December 2020, and we do not go into a runoff until 28th of December, and the president is declared and sworn in on 7th January 2021, the Ghana Election Watch website begins to watch into the next election, which is Saturday, 7th December 2024. So we are going to have a 4-year watch to be able to see who we should vote for come Saturday, December 7th, 2024. And that is the purpose of this online platform, which is an initiative of Kandifo Institute.
I see. And just to ask you, because I hear a lot of, a lot of the reason why the platform is here, the type of data it focuses on. Can you share a bit about the reliable part? Some would say that, because I hear one would comment that, a lot of these platforms or a lot of these watch or even to media platforms are regulated by a political party. Could you share how this is not related to a particular political party and some type of confidentiality, as they would say? Could you share a bit about that? How is this different?
Thank you very much. This is very different because this sits on a think tank. All other maybe platforms that may be available may be skewed towards a particular agenda. But this sits on a think tank that is non-political. This sits on a think tank that is tried and tested and proven to be very objective in its analysis, even in moments and times where it does not favor the people that matter. And so people should trust us, and give us the credibility that we deserve and the credibility that we have had over the years. It also sits on a leader that is tried and tested over the past 22 years, which is myself. And clearly, we are very sure that come December 7th, as we get closer to the polls, the various analysis and statistics and predictions that we'll be able to put together will reflect the very one that the Electoral Commission will put together. And we are working for this good country. We are working for all the 31 million people in this country, and we are working for the Electoral College, which is 16.9 million people. And so this is extremely non-partisan. All the various political parties are on the platform, from NPP to NDC to CPP to PNC to NDP. All those political parties are there. And it's rightful to even note that when we had the launch, all the political parties were present. We had representatives from the CPP, we had representatives from the NPP, the NDC representative. I spoke with him, but he mentioned that he was on the campaign trail and sent his apology and couldn't attend. And so we are very much open to all the political parties, and we told them that if you visit the website and you don't find any of your manifestos there, email it to info@GhanaElectionWatch.com, and my able team would be able to upload all your manifesto. And one of the things that we're going to do as well, beginning from maybe next month, in the next 3 weeks, is that we're going to have an opportunity to interview all the presidential aspirants for all the political parties. And I think that without going ahead of myself, it would be a great honor to partner with High Radio to be able to do this for the good people of this country.
I love that idea. That's a way of chipping in a good and powerful suggestion. I will definitely follow that through with the managing team. I love how you are explaining, the whole operational part of the platform. Obviously, with your line of experience and things, you could just back to back tell us about how the political system is set up. But I would really like to know more about your observations on the side of young people, because that is really the group that you're focusing on, and that is really your participating group. That is the target group of the Kandifo Institute. Could you share with us a bit about your observation among young people? Because generally speaking, some would not have as much confidence in leaders, political leaders, or political parties, or institutions that portray themselves, whether they do or don't portray themselves as politically affiliated. But I just want to know, what are your observations in terms of the confidence of young people, they're participating in this platform that you have initiated and others? How is that? Could you tell us a bit about some of the observation that you've made?
Well, thank you very much. I mean, you would be amazed. I have been overly overwhelmed with the number of emails and phone calls that have come through from diverse kinds of people, showing interest and also availing their skills to help us with policy analysis and data collection and research and entry of data. And all of these are young people. Even right up today, I've had close to about 5 people visit me in this office to be able to share that they want to be a part of that. And all of what I've asked it for them to bring their CVs. And I've just reviewed close to about 25 CVs just today, and sharing all of them at various places in terms of volunteering towards the election. And the Electoral Commission has accredited my institute, Kandifo Institute, as one of the observers, and during the general election. And so we are going to recruit close to about 2,000 to 5,000 young people across the country and distribute them to the various constituencies and polling stations, 275 of them in number. And this is going to be an opportunity for young people to be engaged in the democratic decisions and even be able to observe on the proceedings, because the 2020 general election is one of the elections that is going to catapult this country towards its development. And I want to be very, very objective, and as objective as I can be, I want to encourage every young person to be able to hear what each leader is saying and ask themselves if it reflects to their own values. I think that if you want to be a leader of this country, your vision must be audacious. If you do not have an audacious
For those of you who just tuned in, welcome to Africa on Focus. Thank you for giving us a bit of your time. We are talking to Palgrave Boakye-Danquah, all the way from Accra, Ghana. I think his connection is acting up a bit, but we'll be taking care of that. Again, thank you for tuning in. If you're on Facebook, I would really, really would love to learn more about what your thinking is. We kind of are zooming into a very relevant topic and a kind of a deep topic that is building the systems that we can trust. And also, our last interview with Palgrave Boakye-Danquah talked about the characteristics of powerful leaders, how his institute, Kandifo Institute, is growing young people to become the leaders that we need tomorrow, and also what it entails to have the characteristics of a true leader. First of all, I just want to give a shout out to Richie AT for engaging with us and being so strong and so knowledgeable on the topics that we are discussing. Richie, I still have an invitation to extend to you. Please drop your email so that you also join us with our next Let's Chat Africa, because you always seem to show up with the most daring question, and we love it. So make sure that you join us for our next show, so that wherever you are from home, you can also tune in and give us your critical look. I also want to give a shout out to all of you on Facebook that just tuned in. Esther Dankwa, who is our Olympic champion, and also Frank Danchit. Thank you for tuning in on your Sunday evening to come and listen to Africa on Focus. We're going to get Palgrave Boakye-Danquah back, because you know how this connection, it can sometimes act up. So let me just make sure that we get him back to continue our talk about, actually, we were discussing the topic of young people. Hi, Palgrave, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I think that I have two of them working at the moment, so I just would close one.
Okay, right.
Okay, great. Okay. Good. I'm fine. I think you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes. Great. Back to a strong connection. We were talking about, yes, what is happening on the side of young people, their participation, and of that. Could you share with us more?
Well, young people are particularly very active, and we have seen from the data of 16.9 million people that young people that turn 18 years old this year, and even last year, we have close to about 1 million of them registering to vote. Clearly tells you that young people want to take the decisions of the future into their hands. Anytime I've had an opportunity to show on a platform, I do tell young people who are 20 years old that if you do not make a decision on who becomes your president, in the next 37 years, when Ghana is 100 and you are 57, you would not have thought that you would want to live in this country. And so do not think that you are young, because if you allow someone who is someone who is 90 years old to make a decision in the next 37 years, when Ghana is 100, that person is going to be 127 years old. And I'm not sure how active that person is going to be in terms of the person's own psychological balance and emotional balance, contribution and strength. And so we've seen that a number of young people have been very, very much enthused and participated. I have been overwhelmed, like I rightly said, towards this 2020 general election, as we have an opportunity to observe as accredited by the Electoral Commission. We are going to raise close to about 2,000 to 5,000 young people, distribute them across the country in all polling stations for them to observe. I think that when they are writing their own history as it relates to democracy in Ghana, they will be able to reference that when I was an observer in the 2020 general election, as by Kandifo Institute on the Ghana Election Watch project, I observed that Ghanaians know why they vote in the manner in which they vote and who they vote for. And over the last week, I was on a sister radio station, and one of your colleagues did ask me if Ghanaians vote rationally, and I answered that yes, Ghanaians do vote rationally. And I have mentioned over and over again that our politics is very dogmatic and very religious. people are born into a political party, and there is nothing that you can do about that. It's the same way when you are choosing a high school. I went to Diaspora College in Ghana, and so maybe someone would say, my uncle went to Diaspora College, so my uncle wants me to go to Diaspora College. And that's how it is. My father did medicine, so my father wants me to do medicine. That's the society we live in. People hand over heritage and people hand over treasures. And it's not wrong when those treasures and those heritages are handed over from one generation onto another generation. It purely premised on the fact that these people have been impacted positively as it relates to their own development and their own upbringing and growth.
Yeah, I love that. So let me ask you this, because on a global scale, not to get too much into detail, because that would be another hour. From on the international, from the international view, on one hand, Ghana is a lot of time credited to be, the safety is strong, democracy is up and running right. But on the other hand, when a lot of people talk about the current system that is running in Ghana, it seems that people are still not really content. Blaming leaders for making continuous wrong choices. It could be from the Department of Health to any other department. Do you think that it is fair to be criticizing leaders that we have in Ghana specifically, and at the same time call this a democracy that we're living in? Do you think that this is fair?
Well, thank you very much. As I looked at the topic, I raised up close to about 6 pillars in terms of fundamentals I will talk about. But in relation to this particular question, it brings up one of the questions that I raised, which is question 5. And I'm trying to look at the history of systemic challenges in Africa. And I would like to tackle that as a continental issue. I think that we have systemic challenges of poor infrastructure. We have systemic challenges of lack of proper redistribution of natural resources. We have systemic challenges of persistent lack of leadership and governance, persistent challenges of tribal politics, and a high level of persistent challenge of corruption. And so this is a continental issue. I wouldn't want to narrow it down to a smaller country like Ghana of a population of 31 million people. I really want to look at it as a bigger continental issue. And for those of our brothers and sisters and viewers who are in the other parts of the world, can also look at this holistically within their own continent. What are the systemic challenges? And as you look at systemic challenges, it gives you an opportunity to say that let's call for true leadership, because it is out of true leadership that would be able to address these issues. John Maxwell says that leadership has less to do with position than it does with disposition. Leadership has less to do with position than it does with disposition. And I answer the question what true leadership is, as true leaders are really people that are in service for their people. That true leaders act with integrity, and in doing so, they establish trust. So to be able to deal very clearly with systemic challenges, you need true leaders that will be able to establish trust. True leaders genuinely also value their people, and in so doing, they create loyalty. And true leaders are in the business of assisting people realize their full potential, and in doing so, they inspire excellence. And so if you're looking at systemic challenges, then you're also wanting to look at addressing the conversation of true leadership. There are people that do not plan their journey towards the highest level of leadership. It just happens to them accidentally. And I think that I've had an opportunity of sharing on your platform that there are accidental leaders, there are intentional leaders. There are leaders who become leaders accidentally. One typical example is the Liberia situation. When Liberia was plunged into civil unrest, we saw young people come up in leadership. It was an accidental leadership. We saw many young people becoming early parents, 18-year-olds having 3-year-old born babies, 17-year-old having 2-year-old born babies, and the likes. And so it's an accidental leadership. And for us to be able to build a systemic country, there are some crucial things that one needs to identify. And now maybe I'd like to focus on Ghana. That if we want to look at Ghana's own DNA and Ghana's own development, we need to identify the needs of the country and then also build up Ghana's developmental priorities. I think that about a week or two ago, I had an opportunity of partaking in Ghana's priorities, Ghana Priority Agenda, which was supported by the Copenhagen Consensus Center. And so the Copenhagen Consensus Center has clearly looked at Ghana's 80 priorities that would bring us into development. And I happen to be one of the persons that reviewed some of the papers and contributed as well to this conversation. But if you're looking at building a systemic country, you need to identify the development priorities, because development goes with policy. Policy is at the left, development is at the right. When you bridge them together, that brings the development that you desire. It's like infrastructure goes with industrialization, and you need to ensure that you have an economic society happening within one place. And for all around the world, we know that World Bank assesses various countries at various levels through the country assistance strategy, which is the CAS, for instance. And they're able to use that to assess where each country is and diagnose each country's own challenges, particularly the incidence of trends and causes of poverty. And also, it's when World Bank wants to support you, it considers the country's own developmental challenges, and particularly in incidents of institutional development and implementation capacity. Ghana is a very, very, very enriched country, and I think that the 2016 general election really exhibited to the rest of the world and even to the country that they overwhelmingly voted for this very certain president. And it's really just by the figures. It's not playing politics at all. It's really just by the figures to win, to come from an opposition and win overwhelmingly beyond 1 million people. It's just the trust that the people have given to you. And I think that if we see what has been done with that trust, we see that the good people have been extremely encouraged by the capacity of implementation. And it tells in the numbers of people that are employed by the government to be able to ensure that these things are coming to bear. But one of the things that we need to look at as we look at a strategy that will help in development is, number one, an accelerated action on poverty reduction. Why do we have brain drain? I visited Gambia, I think about 4 or 5 years ago. I was in Banjul, and many young Africans, they call it the black side of the Mediterranean Sea. Many black Africans would want to go to Europe to see greener pastures. Why? Because of poverty. Poverty. And so if we want to be able to bridge up the challenges, we need to have an accelerated action on poverty reduction. And poverty must be reduced to the barest minimum where it is evidential in the fabrics of the development, so that when you enter into a country like Ghana, you will not find any street children. You will not find street children under the age of 18 trying to either do things on the road, clean your windscreen, or sell dog chains and the like. You will not find any of that. Mandela did say when he was interviewed in one of his interviews, when he was asked what he was going to do after his resignation from president after apartheid, he said that he wants to be able to see a South Africa where people do not lift up a placard and say that this is me, this is my name, I am hungry, give me a job for the day, and so I can be able to take care of my family. He says that he wants to see a South Africa that does not do that. And I think that an accelerated action on poverty reduction will be extremely key for the development of this country. Number two, a restoration and a maintenance of the macroeconomic stability. Economy is extremely important. And I don't play politics. I'm a policy research think tank, but the data is really clear to bring to bear. How is it that a government would allow a banking sector to to practice banking in a manner in which that is not credible, in a manner in which the regulations does not allow, and totally collapse the banking sector in pretense that the banking sector exists. And so I commend very strongly the leadership of the sitting president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and the leadership of the EMT, which is headed by the Vice President, Haji Dr. Mahadu Bamia, and Honorable Kinofurata, the Finance Minister, for being so resolute in cleaning up the banking sector and salvaging millions of monies and thousands of depositors, salvaging their own finances. I mean, records have shown that many people whose monies were lost are going to be receiving their money. This afternoon I was meeting with one of my friends, and he said that they are paying the monies. And so it's important that we become real. I mean, I don't think that I don't think that if we remain real, it's going to destroy anything. The country belongs to the people. The country needs to be developed. The country must not be developed into the pockets of one individual. And so restoring and maintaining macroeconomic governance is extremely important. Macroeconomic stability is extremely important for us to be able to deal with the challenges. And I have extreme confidence in what has been done in the financial sector, the financial cleanup. I'm extremely confident with the various regulators coming in to ensure that depositors' funding is safe and is intact. The third thing, as well as we want to be able to bridge up these challenges that I listed earlier on, is that we need to develop a national program for capacity building under conditions of good governance. Okay, so there are bad governance, and I don't think I've had time to go into what the types of bad governance are like. But that's what I'm saying, that if you want to be a president or you want to lead a country, your vision must be audacious. If I look at you as a particular political party or a particular leader, and your vision is not audacious, I will just submit to you that please resign and go and lead a private organization which has less than 10 people or less than 200 people. You may not have the capacity to lead 31 million people and even represent those 31 people on the global ladder of leadership. And so the fourth one is that we need to foster private sector development in all sectors. Private sector development in all sectors. For us as a think tank, you know that we are in the free market space. And so recently we held on very strongly and went in support of making sure that we break the monopoly of one particular telco in the country. And we wrote papers and published it in various newspapers about how we feel that monopoly must be broken. Because if that monopoly is not broken, it has a negative impact on the country's own telecommunication agency, which has less than maybe less than 50% in that. And I don't want to mention any of the telcos, but we must really foster private sector development in all sectors, especially agriculture. You know that we have more lands in Ghana than we do have the sea. I mean, we are not when you go to Liberia, you see the Gulf of Guinea and the Atlantic Ocean, all of those things. I think that we have more land, and so we need to be able to make sure that the sector of agriculture, we have enough to be able to feed the rest of this continent. And so we need to develop that. And we need to take into consideration the various perspectives of sustainable development goals. We need to look at our economic dispensation very well. We need to look at our social, environmental, ecological, and institutional perspective. The economic perspective clearly focuses on the economy of the country. Our economic perspective focuses on the economy of the country. And the ecological aspect also takes into consideration the stability of biological and physical systems. And I need to just explain that social perspectives reflects the interface between development and the social norms that prevail in the respective stakeholder groups. And for us to be able to ensure that we bridge these challenges, finally, we need an institutional perspective. That is important, most important ingredient for sustainable development, which drives the country positively.
Right. So, because I hear it, and definitely what I like is that you've drawn out some of the exact systems that tend to be quite unreliable. Let me just put it that way. Just to give an example so that we could have an idea of specifically the strategy that we can think of or that you're driving young people to do. Like, for instance, police extortion, specifically traffic officers. What is a practical strategy that you think of or the Institute thinks of? Not directly implementing, because again, we're not a political party, but really driving people towards. Could you give us like an example of such? For
Well,
instance,
so
for extortion. Yeah.
basically, one example would be that there are systemic challenges that are in every country, and to be able to go against the norm is to understand the laws of the country. And so, take it like maybe in the police service, and you are either stopped by a particular police person, and he's trying to extort you or trying to bully you. You need to get back to the law and let a police person know what you are aware of, and you need to be able to challenge the police person. And I think that once the police person is aware that you understand the law, he's not going to disenfranchise you from going ahead with your drive. This is one example.
Hmm. Right. I see. The education system. What are your observations about that? Can Kandifo Institute have an opinion, as I would say? Where do you believe it can use some improvements?
Absolutely. I mean, we've written papers on the educational system, and I'm sure that in 45 minutes, when the president addresses the nation and gives the directives on where education is going to go, we've written papers on the fact that in terms of reopening the entire educational system, we need to be able to do it in models. I have advocated that children go to school for long hours. I mean, sometimes they're in school and they're really not doing anything. The maximum retention rate of children is about 6 hours. And so typically, if you take your child to school from 9 o'clock, your child should be closing by 2 o'clock, or even at most 1 o'clock. And bring your child home to be able to build on the child's own social development. And we've written these papers that if we do open the schools, we need to run a bit of a modular system where we have 3 batches or even 2 batches. Some will go to school 3 times, 3 days in a week. Others will go to school 2 days in a week, and they'll close very early in shorter periods of time, so that it gives time for the children to be engaged in other social sectors. And we've had conversations of this nature at the very highest level to the people that matter.
Yeah. So I hear you you saying the Kandifo Institute has been working. It's been running. One of the announcements definitely is the Ghana election watch. You just pointed out what that really means, what that stands for, what it intends to do. Also was another announcement that we picked up on because we follow you on Facebook, or we follow the Institute on Facebook. Very, very exciting to see. I think one of the latest is, let me make sure I name it right. Where you it had to do, yeah, you were or Kandifo Institute was appointed Africa's academic advisor for Indian University. These are some of the things that we have picked upon, endorsed by the Institute. What does this mean? What is that specific appointment? What difference does it make for young people in Ghana?
Okay, sure. So thank you very much. I think that in our first interview, you did mention that I've done quite a bit of schooling, and I did not take that lightly as well. So I've done some quite bit of schooling, and I'm still in the field of schooling. And I think that would continue to study as the opportunity avails itself. And so clearly, I was appointed personally as the academic advisor for Africa for DPU, which is an online university based in India. And as I was appointed academic advisor for Africa with overriding responsibilities as well beyond Africa. And my goal really for the new academic year, which is beginning in September, is to be able to raise close to about 1,000 students who would offer MBA. And so there are 2 options. We give 100% scholarship to 1,000 students who are eligible, that will go through the Indian system once they are selected, and they'll be able to do an MBA for free. And so I mentioned it here this evening as I hold a conversation with MS.ABA and Donnie in Ascensia on High Radio, that yes, if you're listening to us and you're interested in doing an MBA and you do not have funding, there's funding available for you, 100% scholarship. And all you need to do is to just reach us at Kandifo Institute. MS.ABA can give you all the relevant details. And then also we have opportunity for those that may not be able to meet up to the requirements from the Indian government to also do an MBA at a cost of $2,750 US, which is extremely discounted. It's purely online. It's for 4 semesters. You have 8 different options in your second year to be able to choose whether you do project management, whether you do IT, whether you do hospitality, whether you do HR, whether you do business administration, and there are various options of that as well. And Kandifo Institute is representing the DP University in Ghana. That's really what it is. And this is a change agent in the conversations of education, because there are times that, I mean, I've told many young people that in the dispensation that you were born, once you're done with your first degree, your parents are done with you. Clearly, your parents just tell you that they take you to kindergarten, take you to lower primary, upper primary, senior high school, university, and then the rest is really up to you. And so if you finish your first degree and you're working and you have time on your hands, jump onto the online university, DPU online university, enroll on the MBA course, and be on your way to your own developmental agenda. So really, this is what it is. And I honor the Vice Chancellor of DPU for the recognition he gave to me to serve on the advisory faculty for Africa. And I think that I'm showing good leadership over these 8 weeks that I've been in office as the academic advisor for Africa, to be able to do advocacy on leadership and education and raise those students that will be needful for the academic year. And so admissions are still in ongoing. We haven't closed admissions yet. And so if you're interested in enrolling on the MBA course for DPU, please connect with Kandifo Institute. Just Google Kandifo Institute and you'll find the contact details, and we'll just pick it up. Or reach MS.ABA, and MS.ABA will get you to Kandifo Institute.
Sure, be sure to forward that. In the meantime, for those of you who tuned in, thank you. Shout out to all of our lovely listeners that just tuned in from on the Facebook page, on YouTube as well, and also, of course, on our radio channel, High Radio, the voice of the next generation. This is what we're about. We're all about young people and making sure that the voice of this generation and the next is heard. If you just tuned in and you have this thriving question, I know I have a few questions in the comment box that we will be discussing in a few minutes with our special guest, Palgrave Boakye-Danquah, who's director, the head of Kandifo Institute. And this is the 3rd time around that he has been joining us on this show to talk about, what the Institute is for. And also we have touched on different topics such as leadership. How can we unite global Africans? And this is our other conversation that surrounds building the systems that we can trust. Very, very important, especially in this year, 2020. That's it's seeming to be quite of an interesting year for both you and I. So Palgrave, could you share with me your take on the trust element? Building a system that we can trust. Where does this begin? I know that you are really taking the time out to access young people. A lot of people would say, it starts with young people because they're the future. But in your own words, where does this trust element, where does this begin?
Thank you. So, how do we really build a system that we can trust? I think that successful development really requires capacity. Capacity is important. And I look at capacity as maybe a water in a glass. And so if you have a bigger glass, the water is much more. If you have a smaller glass, the water is much less. So it's based on the capacity of the glass. And so successful development really requires capacity of countries to implement policies and manage public resources through their own institutions and systems. And for us, national and economic infrastructures are coming to depend on networks that are informed systems. These systems must be trustworthy. Okay, so these systems must be trustworthy. And trustworthiness really is a holistic property encompassing security, both conventionally, including confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, so trustworthiness is a holistic property encompassing security, conventionally, including confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Correctness, reliability, privacy, safety, and survivability. And so you need to survive. And it's not sufficient to address only some of these diverse dimensions, nor is it sufficient for us to simply assemble components that are themselves trustworthy. Integrating the components and understanding how the trustworthiness dimensions interact is the central challenge in building a trustworthy system. And I need to quickly just add that there are 6 ways at all levels that you can build trust. Number 1 is to recognize that building trust takes hard work. Okay, building trust takes hard work. And so trust must be earned. It comes from a conscious effort to walk your talk. It really comes from a conscious effort to walk your talk. And I'm sure MS.ABA can really just identify with this as it relates to himself and even as it relates to me. Because last time we spoke, I did mention that I got to the office quite early to prepare for this. And I did the same thing today. So it's really consistency and it's really trust. And I'm sure that MS.ABA had no doubt that I would appear for this interview. And I've proven and shown that I'm here. So you must be able to walk your talk. And you must keep your promises and align your behavior with your values. Your values are the things you value. So if you are valuables, it comes from value. And building trust is worth the effort, because once trust is lost, it can be very, very difficult to recover. So that's really one. I mean, recognize that building trust takes time and it's hard work. Number 2, in terms of building trust, you must be honest and supportive. You must be honest and supportive. And I've seen in this trilogue conversation that Donnie in Essentia is extremely supportive of MS.ABA. And that's really what it is by building trust. And even when it's difficult, you need to be able to tell the truth, not just what you think people want to hear, but you must understand what people need to know and communicate facts while being considerate of their own efforts and sensitive to their feelings. And so showing support and understanding for people, even when mistakes are made, goes a long way to build trust. Number 3, sometimes you need to be quiet. Sometimes you need to be quiet. My team tells me that I remind them of a modern day monk, because sometimes you need to be quiet. Sometimes you need to be quiet. Yes, modern day monk. You know, you need to actively listen and check for understanding by paraphrasing what you have heard. You should be able to use a variety of feedback tools to ensure that everyone has a chance for their voice to be heard. And then you must engage in a dialogue with your people that are around you and give them opportunity to ask questions and get answers and voice concerns. And then apply your internal stakeholders to share the future actions. Mandela was once asked, and I think I've mentioned Mandela twice this evening. Mandela was once asked what made him a great leader. And he said that as the son of a king, anytime his father went for meetings to meet the tribal leaders, he went with his father and they sat in circles. He said his father and the leaders sat in circles. And what he learned was that when everyone is speaking, the father is quiet. And the father would allow everyone to speak before he speaks. And he said that when he was asked the question, how to be a great leader, he said he should be the last to speak. And I've had various uncles and families and great leaders tell me that you should be the last to speak. You know why that makes you a great leader? Because then after that, you have all the things that people have said, you summarize it, and you'll be able to give an action point. Number 4, in terms of building trust, is that you must be consistent. Consistently doing what you say you will do, build trust over time. It can't be something you do only occasionally. You must keep your commitments It must be the essence of your behavior in all relationships, day after day, year after year. It must be consistent. It must be something that people will remember you for. When people mention MS.ABA, it must be about 2 or 3 things. She's a worshiper, she hosts a program, and on and on and on. Number 5 is that you must model behavior that you seek. And so I think that I remember that in one of our interviews, MS.ABA asked, that's Kandifo Institute, employ people and pick interns and volunteers. And I said, yes. I mean, if you want to be an intern or volunteer for Kandifo Institute, you must be ready to work hard. Because I, as the leader, I model the behavior that I seek. I'm here on a Sunday, and it's a full day work for me. You know, I think that when I was coming on this interview, my team were saying, oh, would you like to do your interview in the house? And I said, no, I would want to come to the office to do my interview. I mean, because I value the space, I appreciate the space. And when I'm in the space, I think differently, I act differently. And so you must model the behavior that you seek. Nothing speaks more loudly about the culture of a country or the culture of an organization than the leader's behavior, which influences everyone into action and has potential to drive their results. And so I think last week I was on a Zoom call, an international Zoom call, and I led the meeting. And when we were done, one of my colleagues said, with the level of enthusiasm and drive that you have brought, you have rallied everyone that had lost enthusiasm on this project. And so you must model the behavior that you seek. And I think that it's always good to set that example. If you say to your team that it's important, reinforce the point by collaborating across the team and functions, and give credit when people do great work. And you will set the stage for an appreciative culture. Number 6 is that you must build accountability. You must build accountability. So when you or other leaders acknowledge your mistakes as well as your successes, your people around you see it as well and see you as credible, and they would want to follow your lead. You can encourage people to be honest and hold honest dialogues and foster accountability by building in that process to be part of your culture. Over the 22 years of my work, I've been extremely accountable. I've had senior mentors and senior leaders. Even just this evening, I exchanged emails with one of my senior mentors in Canada, whose name I will not want to reference, but I'm sure many people will know him, but he's very, very influential. And he set up a 6 team to mentor us over the next 2 years. And so even me as a leader, I'm under a leadership mentoring. And it's really like that. And I'm accountable. So they ask me critical questions, and I'm very faithful to honestly answer those critical questions honestly, as it reflects to what advice and counsel that they will give to me for my own leadership growth and development.
Right. Well, speaking of questions, I think this is a good moment to look into some of the questions that we have. Again, for those of you tuned in, we're almost rounding up our conversation with Palgrave Boakye-Danquah. It seems like no talk that we have is enough, or the time that we have is sufficient enough to. But I know that the whole of Ghana is waiting for the president's address, so I have to make sure I keep this within time. Here is a question from Johnny that really prompted me to ask, and just short and sweet. For progress to be made, this is a statement made by Donnie, for progress to be made for Africans as a whole, it would take a group of nationalists, a group of individuals with a sacrificial love for their people beyond their personal Black consciousness, taking upon the responsibilities of doing better for their community or for their country. What is your take on this?
I agree 100% with Donnie on his point. Reason is that one of the leaders of the Northern People's Party in this country is called SD Dombo. Many people who are old and young will remember the man called SD Dombo. He said that you cannot lead if you have not served. You cannot lead if you have not served. And I think that there is premise on a number of leadership conversations that are being held. that if you have people who shoot up themselves into leadership without serving, it breaks the fabrics and the morale of the society and their own leadership organization. And I think that is quite evidential on leaders that have served, that have given up their best. When they have an opportunity to lead, you see the fruits that comes out of their service of leadership. So I do agree with Donnie 100% that to make progress, you need to serve and you need to make sacrifices. We all are making sacrifices. It's a Sunday and MS.ABA is set up in her home and she's making a sacrifice to host this interview. It's a Sunday and all of you that are watching are making a sacrifice to be able to watch us because you believe very strongly that this is needful as a conversation to be held for the development of our continent and the world.
Right. So here is one from our listener, Richie AT, who is giving us an elaborate explanation. Any system that is created by Africans for Africans must be one that can be used across board in every African country. So much so that Africans can begin to become patriotic Africans, true to our African identity. Data-driven generations indeed. Remember, it just has to be bottom-up approach, and this man is purely a top-to-bottom dreamer. What is your take on this?
I'm not quite sure if I understand his question, but clearly I think that Africa, you know, we learn across board from the various continents. Africa hasn't got it all. There are continents that have gone ahead of us, and when continents have gone ahead of us, and I think that is his last part, which I will tackle, data-driven generations indeed. Remember, it's just to be a bottom-up approach, and this man is purely a top-to-bottom-down dreamer. So basically, if you don't want to live in a data-driven world, then you really don't have a stake. In this 21st century, you can't be thinking that you're living in maybe 15th century or 10th century or 1st century and things like that. The world has changed and developed drastically. And I'm sure that even the writer himself uses a mobile phone, unless of course he hasn't got a mobile phone. But for him to use a mobile phone means that he believes in data-driven generation. If he has a smart TV, he believes in data-driven generation. If he uses Uber, which is data, he believes in data-driven generation. And I think that data is not a Western thing, and data is not an African thing. Data has come to meet us in this 21st century for us to be able to effectively do things. I'm sure the writer himself has had an opportunity of traveling around the world, and I'm sure that he might have used an aeroplane. And so if he's used an aeroplane, of course, it's data. It's data that communicates, with data that the pilots use to communicate with the people on the ground. And if he watches television every day, and even as he's even watching us now, it's data. And so data-driven generations, I think that his question comes back to him that indeed proves that he's a data-driven generation. And so Richie T, welcome on board to the data-driven generation, and let's go on this journey.
Right. I love that. So we're almost wrapping up our conversation with Palgrave Boakye-Danquah on building the systems that we can trust. It seems like it's a lengthy job to actually build a system that we can trust. Trusting our leaders, one would say, it first takes transparency, it takes this, it takes that. Where do you think, at this time we are in August, in Ghana, it's nearing election time. In your own words, what would you say that young people can do to start building that system that they can trust? And that would be the system in its full rights, the health department, which you mentioned, infrastructure and so forth. Where do you think at this point for young people this starts? Could you close with that one?
I think that young people should get involved. It's important that young people get involved. I have stated that Africa doesn't need charity. Africa needs good leadership. And Dambisa Moyo, and I'll quote him, he's a global economist and author, and he contends in her book, which is Dead Aid. And he says that dead aid, that while foreign aid that addresses humanitarian needs caused by drought and conflict is helpful, and that most of the aid given to African countries is rather harmful. And the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development provides comprehensive statistics that links these kinds of aid. And I think that for us as young people, we should join in the conversation of going beyond aid. Ghana must rise beyond aid. And I think that Dambisi Moyo couldn't have said it rightly when he stated that most of the aid that is given to African countries is extremely harmful. And I think that COVID has really given us an opportunity to see that we are people who, when given the opportunity, can build our economy with the infrastructure that is available, with the labor that is available, and with the intellect that is available. We have seen that there has been closure and there has been minimal intra-trade from country to country and continent to country. How have we survived all these 8 months that COVID has been here? How have people been stuck from exporting and importing? If we have been able to manage our own affairs within the country of our space, then that is enough trust. I would want to encourage every young person that seize this opportunity to be involved, seize this opportunity to be engaged, seize this opportunity to understand, and seize this opportunity to ensure that whatever decision that is being made is going to impact you adversely in your own future, and so be involved.
Yeah. And what I would like to know, what is your message for young global Africans, who might not be residing in Ghana at the moment? What is your push on forward for us?
Well, so I would want to say to all my Africans and non-Africans that if you're looking for a continent that breathes life, that has good climate conditions, that has minimal depletion of the ozone layer, seek Africa. Africa has gone green and Africa remains green. Come to Africa, stay in Africa, help build Africa, help develop Africa. I've seen a map where all the continents of the world, if fitted in Africa, makes Africa where the world must meet.
I love that. And just before we round up, I would really like to give a shout out to a few of our listeners who was also Aaron. Aaron, I know that you are listening from a London city. Just a shout out to you. Richie, thank you for being our most outspoken listener so far. Shout out to you for tuning in with us on this Sunday. You seem to know a lot about the systems that are currently running in Ghana. Also, a shout out to Nanama. Thank you for listening, and also Esther Dangwa for tuning in with us today and listening to our talk with Palgrave Boakye-Danquah. Just before we round off, Palgrave, what can we look forward to? What is in the next 3 months we can look forward to as far as Kandifo Institute and as far as you are concerned, other than the fact that you mentioned that Ghana Election Watch is looking forward to having an interview with all of our candidates, leaders specifically, all of the other that you mentioned. What else can we look forward to?
Thank you very much. I think that over the next 3 months, everybody around the world should be looking forward to a conversation that has just begun with Growing Leaders International. Growing Leaders International is a big leadership institute based in the US, and they are going to be signing an MOU with Kandifo Institute and myself. We've been friends for the past 3 years, and this is going to lead us into an unprecedented opportunity to train millions of young people in Ghana and even across the continent on various models that is available, and various models that people would use to be able to live their lives. And in the next 3 months, you should be trusting that we would be able to deliver a credible database for the GhanaElectionWatch.com post the 2020 general election, and also prepare yourself to see that Kandifo Institute would launch their school, which would be a leadership school, and accredited by Growing Leaders and John Maxwell Foundation.
Right. Right. And I think that will also be an interesting one for next time on to talk to you about this, the education system, the trainings that you are introducing. I am sure that people would also love to find out, does Ghana need that international training and everything? Is that really what young people need? But that's for the next time that we talked about. Building the systems that we can trust. I think this is a topic that we have started to talk about. I think a follow up is definitely needed because there's so much to talk about that cannot be squeezed in just 1 hour, 30 minutes or such. But I think it's been good hearing what Kandifo Institute is implementing as it relates to choosing the leaders, our leaders of next year or this year that we are choosing. How it's going to go onward, what young people can do, what is vital for young Ghanaians to be taken part of, to start working towards building the system that they can trust, and also having you outlined all of the different systematic problems that are around also gives a good idea of, hey, what is the primary focus, what should be the primary focus now. And also, I'm sure that Ghana Election Watch will challenge people to have a critical look at the leaders they will be choosing for, opposing to because of party sake, just because they belong to the crowd, but they can also have that critical look and be able to make a good decision. Any final words, Palgrave, before we round up?
Well, my final words are that we should all keep safe, stay safe, wherever you are in the world. If you're in Ghana, make sure that you exercise your democratic rights on Monday, 7th December 2020. Make sure that you learn how to vote well so your ballot paper is not rejected, because we have many thousands of people whose ballot papers are rejected because they didn't vote well. And I wish the best to the Electoral Commission. I wish the best to the various political parties as they travel around campaigning. I wish them safety, incident-free election, and I wish the globe the best as we all fight to come out of COVID-19.
Thank you very much, Power. We'll be following up as our new season will be starting next month, and hopefully to get you back on and follow up on this topic because there's so much to talk about. There are so many facets that we could cover during our conversation. Again, thank you. Have a
Thank
delightful
you very
week,
much.
and we will be keep in touch very soon.
Thank you very much, MS.ABA, and a very good evening to you and to Donnie and to all your viewers. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you very much. And our lovely listeners, thank you for keeping up with us this while here on Africa on Focus. I'm appreciative of your time, and if you even listen to us via the YouTube channel, shout out to you. This is kind of new on YouTube, but I realized that on a weekly basis, there are people actually, following up with our show. So I think that's cool. I really think that's cool. Africa on Focus. This is the final episode of season 3 of Africa on Focus. Whew, it's been so much exciting, being able to bring out a lockdown specials and being able to tune in from home and being able to bring to you such interesting topics. We have been talking to Denta Amwateng. We've been talking to Palgrave. Let me look up this list. There are a lot of interesting personalities that we have been talking about, and definitely with the goal to share our success stories, because that is really what I created Africa on Focus with. It's been very much a season that new doors have been opening for us. What else did we have? We introduced the Let's Chat Africa. The Let's Chat Africa was actually a pilot running, and we've done the pilot, and it seems to be very successful. So we are actually growing the panel and looking forward to have back to back different personalities that are interested to be part of a global debate that concerns Africans. So if you are also interested in joining Let's Chat Africa, which is the talk by millennials talking about topics that relate to African, send us a DM, or you can find African Focus or High Radio on social media. Send us a DM so that we could get you on. I think one of the highlights was also our conversation with Mario Bo, who talked about Africans and immigration. He really stated that, Africans tend to not immigrate wisely, and there are really things that we should do to kind of break that cycle of repeatedly making the same mistakes. That was really interesting. I am going to have him back because he had a fundraising for widows in Nigeria. So that one was super cool. We've had Leroy Mimel, who's an expert in the branding is key. We've had film director Caroline Kamia, who is a Kenyan film director, bringing about stories that are different, inspiring. Also, with Sabine Fonderson, who is our doctor, we successfully launched a platform, an app for people to have, let's say, the services of a GP through video call and such. So it's excellent for second opinion. She's been on the show to talk about the facts, myths, and truth about coronavirus. Very insightful. That was cool. Also, a lady in agriculture, Yvette Tete, who talked about the opportunities in Ghana at this moment. So it has been good. Oh, Eddie Kadi, the comedian, Busi Sizani, that talked about inclusion, making sure that, once you get a position at prominent corporations, which a lot of us also seek to go for, that you make sure that you are not the only person black at that company. That one was good. All of that and the recaps are coming up on our Africa Unfocused podcast platforms. Yes, you can listen to the show on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Aftown. We also have a collaboration with Aftown, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. In September, we are coming back with a whole new season. I have, inspiring guests. We're also coming back with Women About Business every Tuesday evening, 7:30. We'll be running that. Will be very insightful. We have some international powerhouses that are coming on the show. Myself, alongside Kimberly Ofori, where we talk about, very strong topics that regards the women in business. So look out for that. The season is coming strong. The connections are expanding and everything. So I can definitely call myself blessed to be engaging in the show. And we will be back at the studio. High Radio, we will be airing, or let's say partially, I'll be airing from the studio, and partially I'll be airing from home. Shout out to Esther Dankwa. Shout out to Richie A.T. Eben Ewa, who is, I call him my unofficial manager. He makes sure that, the Africa Unfocused Network is expanding. Also, which will be announced very soon, is Africa Unfocused webinars, where we will have webinar series with our experts that have been here on the show that will be able to give some good guidelines and learnings regarding digital marketing, regarding finding a job on the continent, what is currently trending in the continent, what else do we have? We also have the financial management and business that we're going to have a webinar of digitizing your business. So we are really going to take it to greater heights. We are starting the pilot, let's say in a month, and then we will be running on new things. So I would like to thank you also for tuning in. Make sure that you follow me on Facebook. I have new records coming out, so make sure that you stay tuned for that. Follow me on Facebook. This is Miss ABA. Twitter. This is Miss ABA. Instagram, Miss ABA. Make sure that you follow me. I've left the links on the timeline. So follow me, and I'll follow you back. Stay safe this while, because around the world people are becoming more violent. You know what I mean? Make sure that you exercise a bit more patience for people than you would normally would, because yeah, especially this last week. And I also heard from another viewer or another listener that also in New York, the violence is like rising. Don't know what's happening, but stay trusting in God and stay safe. Make sure that you take wise matters. So I'm closing off. I am. Let me say, I am going to take a cold drink. That's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna vibe into this new week that is ahead of us. I would say, stay blessed, stay healthy, Make sure that you show love everywhere that you go, and we will be meeting again on the 13th of September. Make sure that you spread the word. I'll be keeping up and sharing the recaps on our timelines and everything. So, yeah, stay tuned for that. And we'll be catching you next time.
If you know, take me anywhere you want, I go follow you. Yeah, I go follow you. Oh, where was she lying? Anywhere. Where was she lying? Anywhere. Where let's come in, yeah. Come in, Muele san Camerumbe, Camerumbe, Awele Camerumbe lesa, Limwe Mashila Canavesa. Come rain, come sunshine, I will give you praise. In my good and bad times, Lord, I will give you praise. There's nobody better than you. Nobody better than you. Oh, take me anywhere you want, I go follow you. Yeah, I go follow you. Oh, where was she lying? Anywhere. Where was she lying? Anywhere. Where let's come in, yeah. Come in, Muele san Camerumbe,